Hello everyone, my name is Frederick Olson. I am in HAP-360-DL4 of Spring 2020, and I will be doing my Teach 1 assignment on the business value of information technology. I will be helping you do your assignment. Hopefully it'll help you understand how to do the assignment as well as understanding more about what goes into understanding the business value of IT. So I might have just said the same thing kind of over and over there, but it is pretty important because being able to understand what it is and being able to figure out what is important, what is less important, what might be causing other factors to change more than others, and what factor was changed as a result of the other. I mean, that sounds very similar, but those are pretty important things to know. Can help you really make a difference in your business, and this assignment helps you understand that by taking data and comparing it and creating correlations to understand. So first, let's take a look at the data. So for your assignment, you should have this data. You should see a fiscal year of 1998 up to 2004, as you can see from top up. You should see the budget of Office of Information, the number of records in Vista, and then a VHA cost per patient index. So you should have all of this data. So for the first part of your assignment, it should say, calculate the correlations between A, index on cost of care per patient, then B, the number of records in Vista and system, and then I'm missing C, but the budget of the Office of Information. So what does that mean? Well, it just means to figure out the three types of correlations that can be calculated using this data. So comparing like 1 and 2, 1 and 3, and then 2 and 3. So, as you can see, we're going to get into it. We're going to first find the correlation between the budget of Office of Information and the number of health records in the Vista system. So first, in Excel, you want to set up your Excel sheet so that you can be able to figure out the correlation, and you make sure you have all your data entered in. And you want to set up your correlation equation right here, and you make sure it's equal correl, and then you just select or type in all of the cells that have all your data. And you want to make sure you're doing the correlation setup between those two. I won't repeat this over and over again, but just make sure that's how you know how to do it. And then finally, when you enter it, you should be able to see here, this is the number of EHRs. This is the value you should get, and this is the comparison between the budget and the number of records. Next, we want to find the correlation between the budget and the VHA cost per patient. So correlation setup again, you want to compare budget and VHA cost per patient. It's the same equation, equal correl. The data, the answer you should receive should be this, 0.89238, blah, 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 And this is comparing between the budget and VHA costs. Finally, you want to find the final correlation between number of records in Vista and the VHA cost. Correlation setup, again, you're doing the same equation for all three to figure out the same things. You want to make sure you're doing equal correl, find the data. Your answer should be around 0.5664568. This is what it should be if you're doing the correlations correctly. So now finally, you have part 1 done. As you can see, this is what your table should generally look like. It doesn't have to be exactly this. I just added in this little text box information descriptor here just so you know what each thing is, because even though the two things are labeled cost index, they are unique values, as you can see, and it just helps you know which one's what. So now that we're done with part 1, we want to move on to part 2. And our part 2 assignment is to provide a scatter diagram showing the relationship between IT investment, which is the budget, and the cost of care and the cost index. But how exactly are you supposed to do this? Well, in Excel, it's pretty simple. You just select the budget of Office data, then you select the VHA cost data, you just select all of them, and then next you would go to Insert, and then you find the Scatter little selection at the top. You get the drop-down menu, and then the first option should be Scatter. You select it. Then boom, there it is. You have your scatter plot made right there with all the data and these dots and large numbers. However, this isn't the greatest looking graph. It works, but it's not good looking. So we want to clean it up so it makes more sense. So first you want to right click on the numbers as you see there in that little text box. You want to right click on it. Next you want to click on Format Axis as you see on the bottom of the options. So this screen should pop up. You want to change your units in major to 2.0 E8. You want to make sure minor is 4.0 E7. You want your vertical axes to be automatic, and then you want to change your display units to millions. It just makes it cleaner to look at. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to see on the top right of the entire scatter diagram, you want to see add chart elements, and you want to check trend line so that you can see the trend line, of what's going on here. And then finally, you want to correct your title just so it looks cleaner and makes more sense. So you can name it whatever you want. I just named it IT investment versus cost of care, just to make sure it makes sense to what your diagram is supposed to be representing. And now you're done with part 2. As you can see, this is what you should have so far, and that's still the same correlations calculated. But that's not the last thing. There's still one more part. There's part 3. Back to what I was talking about in the beginning, we want to understand what came first, what came second, to see what's influencing everything else. And this is exactly where it's coming into matter. We want to know if the IT investment was what came first, or was it the change in cost of care? So there's two different aspects to this. First, the IT investment / budget that came first. So with this assumption that it came first, we want to, if the budget went up, that means more EHRs can be implemented, which then means more productivity goes up due to the more available resources, meaning a change in cost of care due to more resources. However, if the change in cost of care was first, we would assume that first there was a change in cost of care, then the budget goes up as a result because there's more needed resources as a result in the change. And then that means there's more EHRs because there's more budget available, and then it's implemented as a result of this. So it changes what happens down the line as a result of whatever came first. So we want to find out which one came first, and it's possible. As in the lecture, we found out that when you calculate a correlation value of whatever came first compared to the other three components, you can see that whatever value is closer to 0 happened first. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. So we want to check the budget value to see if it came first. So first you take the number of VHRs, then you compare it to the cost index. You multiply the number of VHRs by the cost index of the number of records in VHA cost, and you subtract the budget in VHA cost index by that. And that should give you the answer of negative 0.459132779. Next, you do the same thing again, just for cost of care is now the primary value. And so we put the cost of care index of the budget and the VHA cost. Then we multiply that by the budget and number of records correlation, and then we subtract it by the number of records and the VHA cost, which should give us a correlation of 0.116077745. And, as we can see here, as I stated earlier, whatever comes first is usually the value that's closer to 0. And as we can see here, the cost of care is closer to 0, as 0.1 is closer than negative 0.4 because of difference. And so, as a result of this data that we've discovered, we can assume that the cost of care came first, which means that the cost of care changed, which means the budget changed, which means more EHRs became implemented as a result. So, in the end, this is what your assignment should look like. I messed up with the screenshot and it cut out the data, but this is the two correlations of trying to figure out which one came first. But this is generally what your assignment should look like in the end. In conclusion, hopefully you guys are able to learn something new about the business value of IT this week, and you were able to complete your assignment. I'm sure it wasn't very obvious before, just what is exactly the business value of IT, why is that important? I mean, here, as you can see, it can help you determine what factor was influencing everything else. I mean, some might influence others, but there's ones that started first that can help determine what changed everything else. And hopefully you guys learned how to do correlation using Excel as well, and able to calculate correlations through Excel, and it helped us figure out what came first. All right, thank you. Hopefully you guys were able to complete your assignment, and good luck.